Okay, hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're talking about Euphoria Season 2, Episode 5, Stand Still Like a Hummingbird. And that was like an episode of Scared Straight. I mean, I think it is true, fear is the best motivator. Because, up until this point she's had this I don't care attitude. And we get to see the real Rue, and apparently she cares quite a bit. And watching her run around, I kept thinking, like, if she put this much energy into anything, she could do whatever she wants. I mean, it really was mind over matter. And there was no narrator this episode, right? This was on the first episode, I believe we had no narrator because our narrator is running for her life. So the episode starts, and it took me a while to clock what was happening. Like it kind of starts in the middle of the action with Rue and Leslie fighting. And I didn't get what they were fighting about, and it was about drugs because she kept saying, I know you're using drugs. And initially I thought Gia snitched. I thought she told her mom that she was using weed. So I'm like, okay, maybe that makes sense. But then Gia starts freaking out and she's like, please, mom, tell her it wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. And then it's not connecting because if Gia didn't tell her, then what is her mom referring to? Because either she found her high in her room, so the pieces aren't connecting, right? And Rue, her defense mechanism, like she's very manipulative, right? She goes off about, excuse me if I wanted a little bit of weed, to, my panic attacks. And that's how she convinced Gia, right? Like her panic attacks, thoughts of suicide. And we'll come back to this because one of her strategies is to constantly threaten her life, right? And then her mom drops a bomb. She's like, I know you've been using pills. And Rue's face and our face, I feel like as an audience, we're like, how do you know you're using? Who gave you this information? And again, Rue doesn't give up, right? She's like, well, I'll do this drug test. And again, because we're watching her, it's obvious to us that she's on drugs, but like she has an answer for everything, and it showed. And then when her mom told her it was Jules, I mean, my God. Jules, we can have a conversation about Jules, but good for her. Like, I was proud of her for telling her mom that, Rue was on drugs. And as soon as Rue said that, she was like, where's the suitcase? She couldn't find the suitcase anywhere. Like, she was tearing the house apart. And this situation with the suitcase it was the beginning of the end. Like, she lost all control and the real Rue came out, right? Like, she starts breaking down doors. She starts smashing things left and right. And it occurred to me that Leslie, like her mother, might be afraid of her. Because Rue is quite violent when she's angry. And I honestly thought her mother was afraid of her because she was protecting her daughter and I wonder if a lot of her blindness towards Rue is to avoid the situation, right? Like, it's better to be in denial than have to go through this again and again. So this is DEFCON. This is worst case scenario. And Rue is like, where is this damn suitcase? The things that were coming out of her mouth were shocking, right? Like, her mom was like, you're a bad person. She's like, well, you're a bad mom. The stuff that was coming out of her, Rue at this point, she's just saying things. And I noticed her back and forth, right? Like, one minute she's sorry, the next minute she's like, I'm gonna kill myself. Like, again, she's not thinking clearly. And then all hell breaks loose, fully breaks. Like, it kept escalating just when you thought it couldn't get any worse. When we hear Jules in the other room saying we flushed it down the toilet. And this whole thing about flushing these drugs down the toilet, I don't think they flushed it down the toilet, especially if Jules and Elliot are the ones who took the suitcase. But that's a whole other conversation. But the fact that Jules and Elliot were sitting in the room the entire time listening to this was like a whole other layer. Rue was like, as if you guys were sitting there. And the things that come out of Rue's mouth, the thing is, Jules, everybody in the show is an addict. The difference is with Rue, we can see that she's an addict, it shows. Whereas with the rest of them, it doesn't show. Their addiction is not visible to us. So Rue is the type of person, she makes you feel better about yourself, She's kind of like, well, at least I'm not as bad as Rue. And that's kind of what Rue was going at with Jules. She really attacked her. She really went in on her. I hate you. Throwing everything. But I will give Jules credit. She knew how to handle that situation. And it did occur to me because we know that Jules' mother is a drug addict. And we also know that Jules does not like her mother that much. She wasn't that nice to her. And I wonder if a lot of the reason she's very protective of Rue is to kind of make up for that. Make up for her, you know, bad relationship with her mother. So I think her attachment to Rue is not entirely selfless. However, she did the right thing for intervening. And she knew, you know, she wasn't bothered by the things Rue was saying. And Rue, like, when she turned to Elliot, and Elliot just got hit in the head, like, Elliot was, like, feeling some regret, right? Like, he's like, damn, this was none of my business. When I was looking at Jules and Elliot the whole time, I kept thinking, like, they obviously slept together. Jules was wearing his clothes. So, you know, like, Rue was like, I wasn't born yesterday, so don't come at me with this type of nonsense. But, you know, Elliot made a comment. He's like, it's not my place. Which, you know, at that age, it's hard to tell on your friends, right? A lot of the reason that Lexie didn't tell Rue's mother that she was using drugs is because she didn't feel it was her place. And she thought she was being a good friend, right? And I think that's why Rue was shocked, because this is the first person that's actually told her mom that she's using drugs. So she never saw it coming because there was no reason to see it coming. So Elliot's whole, like, it's not my place. I get it at that age, you know, there is that kind of, like, you want to help your friends, but you also don't know how to balance that. And then Rue, bless her heart, she starts going in on the manipulation. She's very manipulative. She's like, you left me at my lowest point. You left me at this. But, you know, this episode made something clear. It wouldn't have mattered if Jules left or Jules stayed, because she would have used drugs regardless. You know, like, that. This episode made that clear. Like, there was nothing that anyone could have done to prevent this relapse. So Rue's whole, like, it was your fault. She's very good at, like, outsourcing it. You know, she's trying to find every reason to, like, you know, make it somebody else's fault, but it didn't work. And so when all else fails, she finally breaks down and she says, okay, I'll go to the hospital with you. I miss my father. So we're getting to the root of the problem, right? Which is that, you know, she hasn't dealt with the death of her dad. And so things were looking bright. You know, they get her in the car. And there's this scene when Gia is packing all of Rue's things and she notices her father's sweater. And Gia is very susceptible to something very bad happening, because, again, Rue is taking all the energy in the house that nobody knows what's going on with Gia. You know, who's she texting? Who's she hanging out with? Nobody knows, because all the energy goes into Rue. So Gia, like, you know, her crying and her, you know, what we saw this episode is that she's also not doing well, because Gia is like a second parent at this point. You know, she's taken on this responsibility that's not necessarily hers. So they pack her stuff in the car, and everything was fine until her mother said, we're going to rehab. You know, ER, rehab, same thing. We're going to lock you in a room until you get clean. And Rue just lost it. And there's this scene where, you know, it's kind of muffled and you can't hear everything that she's saying in the car. But I think that's to emphasize, like, it doesn't matter what Rue is saying, because Rue is just talking now because she's in survival mode. You know, she's about to go through withdrawal, and the idea of rehab is just not something that she can take. And then she starts going in on her family. You know, like, I need to tell you the truth. I relapsed soon after rehab. And then she says this comment like, you know, I was about a month away from killing myself. So she's really trying to create the situation where, like, she's trying to guilt her family and friends into thinking, okay, well, if you don't let me use drugs, I'm going to kill myself. But it's like, you're going to kill yourself by overdosing. So her whole thing about threatening her own life to make her family feel bad. So when she can't talk her way out of it, she runs. And I think her running is meant to show, like, she's done, right? She's done pretending to care and respect people. Like, she's exhausted excuses. Like, she's exhausted the drug addict's manual. There's nothing she can say to get herself out of this, and she's done. And you see that with every stop she makes, right? Like, she doesn't even pretend to appeal to anybody. She will rob. Like, she just doesn't care. And this whole scene of her running from place to place, like, she was moving mad. She was like a DC villain the whole time. Like, it just turned into some, like, crazy nonsense. So her first stop was Lexie's house. And it wasn't until I saw her in context with, like, the other girls that I realized how bad this was. And I also realized that her only friend there was Lexie. Because around Maddy, Kat, and Cassie, like, they're not friends, you know? Like, they grew up together, but they're not really close. This is the vibe I get. And because we're following them around separately, you know, sometimes we forget. And so Rue, her raggedy behind, she makes it to Lexie's house. high out of her mind. Like, it's clear to anybody with eyes she's not doing well. And her mom, you know, starts small talking her to death, like, you know, NA or AA, you know, like just to kill time. And this is the first time Rue starts to use the bathroom trick. So again, she needs money because she doesn't know how she's going to pay this Lori person. And she's going through withdrawal. So she needs drugs, right? She's in pain, like she's shaking. She's visibly sweating. And so she goes upstairs and she's like literally looking through these people's like cabinets, and it's really a sight to see. And she gets out of the bathroom only to kind of be greeted by an intervention. And this intervention, it just went horribly wrong, right? And Rue, she's in a situation where she keeps saying she can't go to rehab. Like, she can't. You know, the idea of withdrawal is not something that she can entertain at the moment. Like, she's in so much pain. And because she's been using drugs regularly, like, it's not a pain that she's used to. So they're trying to convince her to go. And poor Cassie, bless her heart, she was trying to be a nice person when she says, you know what, you just take it one day at a time. And if you're Rue, like, that's the last thing you want to hear. You know, Cassie was so upbeat and preppy and annoying. So I wasn't expecting this. Like, I wasn't expecting that Rue would just drop the bomb. And the fact that this is how Cassie's secret came out, I think is good writing, because the script is quite tight, because Rue saw Nate and Cassie, and now, like, the way they kind of finished that storyline, it was really clever. Like, that was very tight writing. And Cassie's face when it came out, like, as soon as Rue said, how long have you been sleeping with this guy, you could tell that Maddy was putting the pieces together. You know, like, Maddy's like life was flashing before her eyes, and she's like kind of really just like, that makes sense. Because I think Maddy did suspect that there was something, but she didn't really know what it was. And it wasn't until Rue said it that she could piece it together. And Cassie, what happened to being crazier? Like, she was crying. She looked like she was about to piss her pants. Kat looked like she was about to piss her pants. And the whole time I'm looking at Lexie, like, Lexie's about to write the play of the century. You know, she's sitting there taking it all in. And the moment when it's revealed that Nate and Cassie are having an affair, Lexie's face looked like, that makes sense, right? You could tell she was just like, that makes sense. And then this intervention goes horribly wrong. But again, Rue is very good. You know, at this point, she's willing to say anything to get out of it, right? So this is a good distraction, and it allows her to run away. But this whole Cassie and Maddy situation, I thought Maddy was going to kill Cassie. You know, hopefully Cassie's alive in the next episode. But she was just going off, you know, and especially when she found out the length of time that they'd been seeing each other. Whew. Whatever the case, that gave Rue enough time to make her, you know, escape and off to her next stop, Fez's house. And Fez's reaction to her was really funny. He was just like, where have you been? Because again, she's clearly going through withdrawal. There's nothing chill about her, right? Like, there's a desperate energy, and she's begging for drugs. And sadly for Rue, ever since Nate basically snitched on Fez and caused that police raid, Fez doesn't keep drugs in the house anymore. You know, and he kind of made that clear. He's like, there's nothing here, but I guess you can use my bathroom. And the whole time she's using his bathroom, you can tell he was like highly suspect. Like, he was just like, you know, you don't leave a drug addict alone with your things. And then Rue, the fact that she was willing to steal his grandmother's pills, I mean, the principle of it, right? And again, it's to show rock bottom. I think this scene with Fez really showed me that she was rock bottom. Like, she didn't care. You know, she was willing to do anything to get rid of this withdrawal. And when he threw her out of the house, you know, when he was like, you got to get out of here, like, not today, lady, like, I don't got time. Again, like, he's one of the few people that has been very patient with her. And I think he saw, like, he's like, damn, how bad is it? I didn't realize it was this bad. And he just kicks her out, like, he's done. Just because, like, there's no respect. And it shows that Rue's relationships, like, they were only good insofar as they enabled her drug addiction. But now that they no longer enable it, she has no use for it. And because she's going through withdrawal, she doesn't really feel a need to pretend. You know, she's just too tired to pretend. Like, either give me my drugs or leave me alone. And so she's for the streets. She's been kicked out of every house that she's been, you know, she's tried to rob and get drugs out of. And what does she do? She decides to just rob a house. And this whole scene of her robbing a house was the most bizarre. Her face to the camera and the whole like, I'm gonna steal some shit. You know, for a while when she was robbing that house, I thought she got the $10,000 actually that she needed to pay back this Lori, because she breaks the safe at one point, and I thought for sure she got enough money to, you know, pay this woman. So I thought, oh, maybe she's about to get lucky. Maybe, you know, maybe something will work out. But unfortunately for her, the owners came back in time, and the fact that they found her under the bed, she's very lucky she wasn't shot, you know. And the sad thing is, I'm pretty sure this will come back at her. Like, I'll talk about this at the end, but like, it's not going to take much to identify Rue as the robber. Like, I don't think the police have to do much to find her, you know. So that's a whole other situation that's pending on top of this debt that she owes. And just before we get to this crazy police chase, like, I like the transition, because Rue's mother and Gia had been looking for her. So they're driving around town, they're looking for her, and Gia's texting somebody, and I don't know who she's texting. Maybe she's just on her phone, but again, we don't know what's going on with Gia. But they spend the whole night looking for her, and then there's a scene where Rue is walking in an alley, and I thought for sure Rue's mother is the one who found her, but instead it was the police. And this scene with the police, I didn't know what to make of it. Like, it was so chaotic, because first, anyone with eyes can see that this person has a problem. I'm sure the robbery has been reported at this point, and she's sitting there shaking, and eventually, like, she can't hold it together and she just throws up, and this causes chaos. But watching her run around, I mean, this was like chaotic energy, right? She took them through every alleyway, every house, like trying to make it as difficult as possible for the police to follow her. And this whole bit about her like going through parties, breaking, like, she just basically wreaked havoc on the whole town, you know. And there's a scene where these little chihuahuas are like running after her, like she's so out of it, right? She's in pain, and it's to the point where I don't think she feels anything. Like, the withdrawal is so bad that, you know, it's like you literally just jumped a bunch of fences. She has bruises, she's battered, I think it tells you her state of mind. Like, she's so focused on getting her fix that she doesn't really feel anything. Like, nothing is there. And I thought it was quite clever that she hid in a trash can while the police were looking, and eventually gave up. So again, she's very resourceful, you know, like, she was thinking quick. And again, if she put this much energy into something else, she'd probably be fantastic at it. Okay, so we get to the last scene, and the last scene was the most chaotic. The last stop, Lori, and this was like an episode of Scared Straight. I mean, Lori is terrifying because she's so calm. And we find out a few things. First, Lori knew damn well that Rue was not clean, right? So Rue comes into the house, she drops the money, she drops the jewelry she stole, and she's like, you know what, I came here to tell you this because I was scared you'd be angry. And Lori, in so many words, tells her, I don't get angry, I get even. Like, that was kind of the vibe she was giving. And we learn a lot about Lori. First, according to her, she used to be a drug addict, and she got addicted to Oxycontin, and she didn't know it was addictive until she no longer had it. And she described herself as a school teacher. I was like, is this how you teach kids? What kind of school teacher were you? What were you masquerading as? She has this wonderful description of drug addiction where she was like, you know, because your body cannot get high naturally and it's relying on all these artificial stimulants, your body doesn't know the difference, you know. But the only positive thing is the things that felt bad don't feel as bad anymore. And Lori, you know, she does this thing throughout where she doesn't force anything, right? She wants Rue to do it voluntarily. And this issue of money comes up, right? She's like, listen, this isn't a pawn shop. You know, I need cash. And the only good thing about being a woman is, you know, you always have something that other people want. So again, Lori knew the minute she saw Rue that she was high. She gave her that suitcase in hopes that this type of situation would happen, right? Like, that Rue would be indebted to her in some way. And Lori told her from the beginning, like, I will sell you to some very bad people if you don't get me my money. But this is totally lost on Rue, right? And Rue starts begging for drugs. She's like, I need pills, I need pills. Lori says, well, I don't really have any pills. And the whole time Lori's talking, Rue is just looking at the apartment, and we get a zoom in of one of the doors, and I could have sworn there was somebody like scratching in the door, but I could be reading into it, I'm not sure. But I'm pretty, or it could just be the room where the drugs are, you know, like she's thinking about, you know, pills. Like she's like, I just need something. And Laurie was like, well, I can shoot you up. That's the best I can do. And this was really problematic because if you, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure like using a needle intensifies the high more so than using a pill. So again, Laurie has a plan for Rue, but she needs Rue to submit voluntarily. And this whole scene of her in the bathtub, like that was so terrifying. Like she's kind of undressing her, you know, she's like, it's okay, sweetie, I don't have any pills, you know, it's okay. The whole time she has the morphine ready to give her. And again, it speaks to her, just how deep Laurie is. Like I seriously doubt that Laurie didn't have pills in that house. She 100% had pills in that house. You're not gonna tell me she didn't have pills in that house. And she asks Rue, like, are you sure you wanna do this? Like, are you sure? She gets her consent, right? So instead of convincing her, like, you should take it, it'll make you feel better, she gets that consent, right? And you know, she knows damn well Rue is gonna say yes. And this whole scene of her, like, you know, messing up her arm, and like, I couldn't even look at that. I was like, what is happening here? You know? And then Laurie says something terrifying. She's like, you know, the minute I saw you, I knew you'd be in my life for a long time. When she said that, I was like, this turned into a horror movie. Like that kind of solidifies it. Like Laurie is a predator and she knows who to target, you know? And the next morning, Rue wakes up, and this whole scene of her trying to escape from the house was the first time I was like I was actually really scared for her, because it was looking tight. You know, I thought either somebody's gonna die, like she's gonna take the gun and shoot people, or I don't know what was gonna happen to her. Like, she wasn't locked in the room, so I don't know if Laurie would have kept her there. Like, I think Laurie is the type of person that would have maybe given Rue some time to get the money, and then, you know, took it, you know, then she'll take it to the next step. But whatever the case, that was tense. When she jumped out the window, I was like, run for your life, you know, like, and I think that scene of her, like, barely escaping scared Rue straight. Like, I think there's no better motivator than fear. And I think it really just scared her straight, because it scared all of us straight. And we're assuming she went home. Like, I don't know who, like, Rue's mother is waiting for her. So that could either be Rue or it could be the police. That's a whole other situation, because at this point, Rue owes this woman money. And she's also guilty of breaking and entering. So I don't know if she's gonna cut some type of deal to throw Laurie in jail. Like, at this point, Rue needs a miracle to save her, right? It's kind of kill or be killed. And I feel like somebody's going to jail at the end of the season. The question is who? But that was a crazy episode. Like, that whole episode from beginning to end, like from the start, I had anxiety. And at the end, I was like, that's the thing, you go back and forth. You're like, you're rooting for her one minute, and the next minute you're like, nah, like, you don't deserve my sympathy. Anyways, you guys let me know what you think.